Now we're ready to read data from a file. To do that, we're going to have to import some classes into our program. The first one is Java IO File Reader. Then we need Java IO Exception, just like before. And then we also need Java util Scanner, which we've used before to get input from the keyboard. This time we're going to use it to get input from a file. So we start our program off by creating the file name. And we'll use the same file we used last time, grades.txt, which is stored in our current working directory. Then we have to associate an input object with the file that we're going to use. So we're going to do that by calling the constructor for the scanner, which then in turn calls a constructor to the file reader class, which then uses the file name to set up an association between grades.txt and our input object, which is infile. So instead of associating infile with the keyboard, like we did with system.in, we are associating it with our file, grades.txt. Now we need a variable to store each grade that we read, so we'll int grade. Then we're going to read the grade from the file. The problem is, well, first of all, the method we use is nextLine. But if you remember, nextLine is associated with strings. And that's correct because the data stored in a file is stored as a string. But the grades are integers, and we need to convert that to integer from string. So to do that, we call the integer class and a method from that class parseInt. And that converts the grade from string to integer. And then we're ready to write it out or to display it. So we'll do that with the system out print line. Now let's save the file, clear the screen, compile the program. And there we see that we've read in the grade 85, which is the first grade in the file. So we can just repeat these lines to read the second grade. So let's do that real quick. Save the file, come back, compile again, and then run it. And we see 85 and 77, which are the contents of the file. The problem here is that in a more general sense, we're not going to know how many grades are stored in a file. So we really don't want to have to write the program in a linear fashion. What we need is a loop to loop over the file and then read in grades as we've come across them. And the way we do that is we use a method called hasNextLine with our infile object, like so. This method, hasNextLine, looks at the file to see if there's a line to read for input. If there is, it returns true. If it's at the last line in the file, then it returns false and the loop will stop. So we can put our input line, grade equals integer parseInt infile.nextLine, and our system out print line lines inside the body of the loop. Get rid of the other statements because we don't need them anymore. And now let's save the program and compile again. And so you see now it reads the two grades. And if we added grades to the file, which I can do very easily by just opening it up in Notepad, let's put a few more grades in here. And let's save the file and close it. Now let's run the program again. And there you see it reads all the grades that are stored in the file. So if you're trying to read all the data in a file, then you should loop over the file using hasNextLine to test to see if there's more input to read. That about wraps up reading from a file, and now we're ready to move to the next part of text file processing, which is appending data to an already existing file.